Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
After further review, looks at the 2021 difference makers this week. You can watch as Dave McCann, I've heard of him, Blaine Fowler and David Nixon break down the film. AFR available tonight on the BYUTV app, 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
We're live in Studio B with your day-to-day play-by-play. Jarom Jordan alongside Jason Shepard. We now welcome to the guest, former Blue and White Network sideline reporter Dave McCann. What's up, Dave?
I've come a little ways since then. Yeah, those were the days. True Blue, remember we used to do True Blue here in this studio many moons ago, and now it's the mothership sailing along.
Yeah, I used to produce that, and you hosted that, and it was so bad they cut it for AFR and BYU Sports Nation.
Listen, we were the pioneers. Someone had to cut the trees down and make a trail.
Someone had to do something that elevated from there.
That's what we did.
Okay, we were talking about this alliance with the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and the ACC. What effect that could have on BYU? Will it force BYU hand eventually to maybe have to join a conference? We were of the opinion that Shep said, hey, maybe, yes. I said, I don't think so. I think BYU likes to put its feet in the sand, and they can do it alone. What's your opinion on that?
Well, the excitement of the announcement today is that there's something. And really it's to try to slap the SEC. It's got nothing to do with us. And then I think once the excitement of, hey, this alliance is being announced, we'll see that it really doesn't have much of an impact at all, especially for football where schedules are done so far in advance. Are we talking about in 2035? Is that when the alliance is? Well, we may have super conferences by then, probably will. So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to have much of an impact, and I don't think it forces BYU to react. What I'm most curious about is why they've decided that the Big 12 no longer exists. They're like, hey, what did we do? Those guys just left. But it shows you the power of the SEC, and it shows you how big Texas and Oklahoma are, where they just hopped the conference. And then the other three are all mad. Now they're going to get together. We're going to have a fight. The SEC is going to win that fight. If you just look at the schools that you take Clemson out of the mix, USC out of the mix, who's left to contend as a national power? Ohio State, okay, they're in there. You take them out of the mix. But the SEC is going to stand firm through this whole thing. So getting Texas and Oklahoma for them was the greatest thing the SEC could do. Now everyone else is mad.
Yeah. And I'm feeling like coming off of NIL with Built Bar and that season and Zach Wilson, that BYU more than ever in independence is feeling like, okay, at least for now, we can keep doing this. We're going to be okay.
Yeah, if you have a TV partner like ESPN, you can do that. If BYU didn't have ESPN, then we'd be in a league.
Yep.
Even if it was a league we didn't want to be in.
Yep.
But we have them, and we've had them since the announcement came to go independent, and then they re-up for 7 years. That's the power of college sports. Who has the SEC TV contract after, 23? ESPN. That's where the college power is, and they're our friends. And we have a contract with them. That allows us for the next 6 years to figure it out. And it allows them to figure out where they want us. And I think that'll have a lot to do with where we go.
Well, let's focus on something that we know will have an immediate impact on BYU, and that's the starting quarterback for this season. Will you be surprised if BYU does not announce a starting quarterback today or tomorrow?
No, why should they? We all want to know because we want to write stories about it and do things about it. But
Dave, we have a daily show. We need some content here.
You got a daily debate every single day. Why would you want this to end? I think the team knows, or at least the quarterbacks know, and whether or not they've announced it, the team, probably not, because no one can keep that a secret. And we'll hear maybe today, like you mentioned a moment ago, Aaron said, well, Tuesday, Wednesday at the latest. I don't know if that means they can't say, yeah, well, we've decided. And we'll let Arizona find out on September 4th. They got a new defense. They have a new defensive coordinator. They're coming off a miserable season. They're trying to figure out what they're going to be. And now all of a sudden they have 3 quarterback styles to deal with for their opener. Does it hurt BYU to just go, yeah, we know who our starter is. We'll see you on the 4th? I don't think so. Does it drive us nuts? Maybe a little?
The only reason I think they'll announce is because Kalani said as much, basically, 2 weeks ago. He said the fans need to know. Because I thought they would do that. Like, oh, we don't have to tell you anything. We'll just roll them out. So I was like, oh, they're going to announce him. And then Aaron said that, so I thought, oh, they're going to say who it is. Just when will they say?
I think they're the same thing that Sean Payton the Saints coach, is dealing with. Last night after the game, you could tell he was so sick of the quarterback question. I think he rolled his eyes and exhaled and this and that. I think they're all sick of the quarterback question. Maybe that's why you throw it out there. I know Kyle Whittingham was sick of the quarterback question until yesterday. Or actually, it was all announced, and he says, I haven't announced. So even, so there's all that going on. That takes care of that. But in the competitive preparation to beat Arizona, Baylor and Jarom have very different styles, and Conover's a wild card. Does it kill you to keep them guessing? And I don't think it does. And would it kill us to get through another week and a half? Probably not. So gives us something to talk about tomorrow.
So who gives BYU the best chance to win, in your opinion?
I think Hall gives them the best chance to win. I've always been high on Conover, and I've always said through this whole thing that it wouldn't be surprised if he was behind center against Arizona. But if Hall is the quarterback, that means he has won the job. And how many times have we heard Kalani say, best 11 on the field? So if that's what they've decided, then Hall won the job, or Baylor won the job, or Conover won the job. Based on experience, and Hall's looked great in camp. They've all had good camps from what everyone has said. I wouldn't be shocked if it's Jaron Hall. And I think Conover is still the future. And I was thinking this morning, Detmer didn't start as a freshman. I don't think McMahon started as a freshman. Our two greatest quarterbacks.
Yeah, not true freshmen. Yeah.
Right. But as they evolved, junior, senior years, one was the best in the country, and the other may be the best of all time. And so if Conover can get 4 games in and then his redshirt year, that gives him 4 more years to play. We've all seen enough of him in practice. We've all talked to all the coaches. We've talked to all the players. He is the next thing. And the next thing may be after the current thing, and that might be okay.
BYU may have the only quarterback in history who's a third stringer who told Alabama no. That might be the first time ever that has happened with anybody ever, which could be super weird. Okay, what unanswered questions are there that you're looking forward to trying to start to get answers against Arizona?
I just want to see if the offensive line can be as big and as bad as we think they can be. And that means you establish the run, which takes the pressure off the quarterback, and with those 5 receivers and their rotation and the tight ends, you can get everything going early instead of, well, 3rd, 4th game, we finally got, how to do all this. But if the line can open up holes for Algier and Lapini, and I think Algier is going to have a huge year, motivated by the schedule and motivated by the 1,100 yards he had last year against the schedule that people say, well, that was against that schedule. So I think there's all kinds of motivation for Algier. And to have that big offensive line and him get the ball and run behind right tackle, if he's getting 3, 4, 5 yards of pop, that means everything's going to work. And that's the quarterback's best friend. If he gets stuck behind the line, and now it's 3rd and 12, then you got to go to those other tools, which are there. That's not a death sentence. But as we saw last year, even in that bowl game where I think he was rushing for 8 yards a carry, and then Zach could drop back and do whatever he wanted. He still had to make the throws. Guys still had to get open, but it was all in play. And I think that starts with running the football at a school that passes the football. But when we've been great historically, we've had a big bruising running back and a phenomenal quarterback and great receivers and an All-American tight end. Well, look at the makeup for this team. It's all there potentially. And again, it all starts with number 25 running behind that line. If that line's big and nasty, the defensive line too, which everyone has told us in camp is going to be better than what we expect. And for some reason, the D-line has gotten this reputation of, well, they can't get to the quarterback. And historically, they haven't gotten to the quarterback in recent years. The linebackers may have, but that all appears to be mending as far as the talent and the depth that they have, and the optimism of the defensive side of the coaches going, hey, look, we're going to be better than people think. And the strength of the defense is still the linebackers. So if the line's better than people think, then there should be some open lanes for Wilgar and Thule and Peely and the others to come through there, wreak havoc, and do what they didn't do last year, which is cause turnovers. And if they can do that in this schedule, they can line up and win every game. Will they win every game? I don't know. Can they win every game? If they're healthy, yeah, they could. Could they lose every game? No, they cannot. They're playing Idaho State.
Put the big ones on, Dave, over there.
But no, I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying they could. You look at the matchups. There's not one matchup where you go, oh, we're dead.
Yes.
If Alabama's on the schedule, we're like, you know what? We're dead. Let's not get killed. If Ohio State's on that schedule, if Clemson's on that schedule, well, they're not.
Yeah.
We got good teams on the schedule, but BYU's a good team. So line it up and see. But I don't think we enter games double-digit underdogs on any of that schedule.
There shouldn't be a single one.
No.
You're right.
And then it's who takes care of the ball.
Well, and you mentioned last year, and we all saw the offensive weapons that were on display and the numbers and the production that was a result of that. When you look at what is around whoever the quarterback is there a chance that the weapons may be even better than what we saw last year as a collective?
Absolutely. One, we've got, what, we had 2 tight ends last year and Wake. Now we have 3 and Wake, you know. We had Powell and Romney at receiver. We lose Dax, so we pick up the Nakuas. And then we add Hill, who's gotten better, and Jackson, who's gotten better, and some of those other guys. I think the talent pool is better than last year. The quarterback made it all work last year because he was phenomenal. A quarterback who is not phenomenal but surrounded by the best accumulation of talent that this program's had in a long time can be good enough to win games. And he might be great, and he can get to being great. But he doesn't have to do it by himself. You know, it's not all about, hey, you're all we got. Ty, run back, run around, and make all the plays. Well, Ty had running backs, receivers, huge offensive line, tight ends. And then and he didn't win every game either, but he won the Heisman Trophy because he was that good in that setting. So whoever this quarterback is has an opportunity to look really good because of the other 10 guys around him.
And I love the evolution of the offense through Aaron Roderick, Sitake, Steve Clark, and company. I just love where we're at. The fact that BYU could keep A-Rod coming off of that is pretty notable. Number 2 pick, top 5 offense, that was good. Okay, let's finish with this. Speaking of Zach Wilson, I love what's happening with Zach Wilson. We all do. It's awesome. It's preseason. He's crushing it. I'm a little hesitant in the regular season the next couple of years because the Jets traditionally just stink. Yeah. I'm hoping he overcomes the organization, and maybe he's the savior of that organization. How do you feel about what the future could hold for Zach Wilson?
Well, I like what Steve Young said on this show. He's got enough 49er blood over there. It's not the Jets. He didn't go to the Jets. He went to a new coach who came from the 49ers. A lot of people thought he should go to the 49ers. I wanted him to go there because they're poised to win right now. Yes. And they're in a system that I think could feed his skill set. Well, some of that system is now running the Jets.
Mike LaFleur, yeah.
So I think I've watched him closely, too. It's just great. You know, New York is such a... You throw a screen pass and they want to run the guy out of town. He complete a screen pass and he's the next Joe Namath. The same play.
Just give him a fur coat.
It's just a different thing. But I think, and we know Zach. Zach is level-headed and it looks super young, but he gets it. And his coach has said the same. He understands it. He learned between his junior and senior year to get down. He learned to throw the ball away, not force it in. If he maintains what he knows and what he is, then he can do what he's done here in the preseason against preseason defense. But it's in the head. Hey, you can throw a pick into a crowd of 3 defenders or not, whether you're in the regular season or the preseason. You can run for your life if you're running against the first-string defensive end, which is probably going to happen. But you know what? He's got other defenses coming at him. But he knows that, hey, I need to not get hit by this guy. I'll either go down or throw the ball away. He learned that through the trial and error in injury here at BYU. And I think he's smarter. He's as smart as we all know he is. He's smarter than the NFL world thinks he is. And I think that will play out. If he wins 5 or 6 games and they're moving forward, he'll be the king of New York.
Well, outside of New England, there'll be this massive audience coming from Utah, and all the ratings will be like, "What? Oh, Zach Wilson."
Yeah, and he's such a good guy. He celebrate a win with a chocolate milk, just like he did here at BYU. And the NFL needs that, and I think he can deliver it. And we just hope he stays healthy and hope he keeps smiling, because when he's having fun, he's fun to watch. When he's not smiling, you know, things aren't going good. And this whole last season, he looked like he was having the time of his life. Yeah. But just throwing to guys making phenomenal plays, a huge line, a great running back. Again, that opens the door for the next guy to replace him, because all those pieces are here in Provo. And then we wish Zach the best of luck with the Jets. I had my first Jets shirt my whole life.
I saw it.
Oh, you got a Jets shirt.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely did. I felt I needed to.
Nice. You had that within like a week of him being drafted, didn't you?
Yeah, I made the commitment early.
Yeah, you went all in.
I thought, you know what? Yeah. I think the Jets are going to keep him since they drafted him.
Yeah, you know, there's one more cut we need to worry about, I guess, before August 31st, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not.
How about Dax Milne? I think he's going to make the team.
That'd be pretty good, right?
That would be
That'd
awesome.
pretty good.
If they don't keep him, somebody else will pick him up.
Yes.
I don't think he clears waivers. Somebody else will pick him up.
When you're running with the ones in practice and you're playing with the ones in the first and second quarter, that's a good sign for a 7th rounder.
Yep.
And
the Hobbs Nyberg of the NFL.
He's faster now. Did you notice him the other night? I didn't know he was that fast at BYU when he was running. Maybe because he was running for his life with the Redskins or the football club or whatever it is. But, man, I think he's got a shot. That'd be awesome.
Okay, Dave, we appreciate the time. After further review tonight, 7 Eastern on the BYUTV app. It's
going to be a great show tonight.
It's going to be award. That's the one we're submitting, right?
It's a job. It could be. It's the job of keeping Nixon and Blaine engaged with not letting one overtalk the other.
Yep.
Which, you know, is like two semis running
together. You're the
ringleader. Same thing. I just start it and end it. That's my job.
In elementary.